I think we are just going to go ahead and get started. I know we didn't get to everybody, but we want to make sure that we're careful with everybody's time tonight. So welcome. First thing, I just want to say before we start, if you need to use the restroom, help yourself to water, or anything like that, make sure you go around the outside. We're filming tonight, so we just want to make sure that we don't have blocking of the camera. Okay, welcome to Fabric. My name is Angela Johnson. I'm the co-founder here of Fabric, and we do these every month. It's the last Thursday of every month, and this is, as you can see, a way that everybody can get together and network with each other and learn something. That's the whole point here. It's a different subject every single time, and tonight's subject I'm so excited about. So I'm going to introduce our guests in just a few minutes, so we're going to be patient for meeting our guests, but let me tell you a little bit about Fabric, because a couple of people asked, what is Fabric? So I'm going to tell you what Fabric is. Okay, so Fabric is an acronym that stands for the Fashion and Business Resource Innovation Center. And we're a fashion incubator. We like to say we're democratizing fashion. And that's meaning we're trying to make it available to anybody. You don't have to have a fashion degree. You don't have to know what you're doing in any sort of way when you come here. If you have a good idea for a sewn product and you've never done this before, this is the place to come. This is exactly why we created it. So we do a lot. It's not just a factory. In fact, that's a very small percentage of what we do. We are all these things. We are an incubator. We are an accelerator. We're an academy. We have an event space. We have office space. We have classes. We have the design development services. We have manufacturing. We have help with branding and marketing. I mean, you name it, we probably do it. So we tried to put the entire industry under one roof to make it a little easier for people who are just getting started, because your only other alternative is to piecemeal this out in all kinds of places, and most likely in LA or New York. And then hardly anything is left in those places, so most likely overseas. And that's really hard to deal with when you're a small brand, because there's really high minimums and language barriers and stuff like that. So that's kind of the gist of why we exist. And we use a lot of technology, let me get out of the way here, to do the things that we do. We design everything in a CAD software that allows us to actually be able to virtually stitch up the patterns onto avatars first, so you don't have to cut and sew so many samples. That's really expensive. And then you can take beautiful prints and embed them into the pattern pieces so that you can have artwork that's engineered exactly where you want it to be. And then we actually can play with the colors and the prints so that you can use that as a marketing tool before you go into production. You can take your avatar and you can show it on your website. We can print just what has been ordered on our sustainable Kornit Presto printer, which the printer is amazing, you guys. The printer is actually, there's only 14 of them in the whole country, and we are the only place that you can go as a small brand to access it. And it's way better than sublimation printing. Sublimation printing is the norm. That's just printing on polyester, and polyester is so unsustainable, and the fashion industry is already so unsustainable, so we don't need to be adding to it with plastic. And so that printer can print on bamboo and cactus leather and hemp and all kinds of really sustainable fibers. And as you can see, we can print just the pattern piece with the print engineered into it when the orders come in, which we call batched on demand. So that's very different than normal fashion manufacturing. Normal fashion manufacturing is you make, 20,000 of them overseas in a sweatshop, honestly, where people aren't getting paid fairly. That's how you get your cheap prices. And then you sit on that inventory and you hope to sell it. This is why the fashion industry is so unsustainable, is because all that inventory ends up in the landfill most of the time. Most brands can't sell everything that they had to make. And then most of that's made out of plastic, because polyester and all those man materials, they don't biodegrade, and they're going to sit in the landfill forever. And that's why the fashion industry is in disruption right now. And that's why what we're doing is so important. By enabling smaller brands and startups and apparel entrepreneurs, that's giving them a leg up using all this technology that the big brands don't even use. The big brands have not embraced all of this technology yet. The manufacturers haven't embraced all of this technology yet. They are still doing it the old school analog way, which costs a lot of money and has a lot of waste. And so our vision is to basically make this accessible, or our mission is to make this accessible to, Oh my goodness, I always have this problem. Hold on, I gotta skip to the other one. I can't do it with this remote. To brands of any size, so it's not just the big brands that have access to this technology. So this is a really important thing to know about us, our mission and our vision. We're a nonprofit, 501c3 corporation or organization. Our mission is people-focused and our vision is planet-focused. So when I say that, I mean we're helping apparel entrepreneurs. We're providing them with all the resources that they need so they don't have to go manufacture overseas, or so that they don't have to have a degree in fashion design, or so that they don't have to hire a full-time production manager and spend $80,000 a year on that, because that's what it actually takes to successfully get through this. So we give all kinds of things that help those apparel entrepreneurs be successful. And then our vision is a planet-focused one, because if we can set the model for how things should be made using the technology that we have, then that is the thing that hopefully will get replicated by the industry, and we can start disrupting the industry, reshoring it, changing it, making it better for the future. And that's why we say our vision is a planet-focused one. We want to make Arizona the next fashion capital, use technology and do it better. Like, why not? What's holding us back? We have that ability to start from scratch, right? So one of the things that we do is we give education scholarships. So we have a platform called a roadmap, and the roadmap contains, I'll show you in a second, it contains so much great information. We scholarship 290 apparel entrepreneurs into the roadmap every year. And that is our biggest give back, because the roadmap contains everything that person would need to know so they don't have to hire a production manager or a quality control manager or go to school or whatever. And they can just follow the steps. It's basically my brain of 30 years of being in this industry downloaded into this learning management software that they just follow along, and it tells them, do this, check this, make sure you fill out this paperwork, make sure, you know, and that way they don't have to have all of that other stuff. So that is our biggest give back. We have a ton of other free services too. We document all of this and we report it to City Council, and that's how we earn our stay in this beautiful building. And if you want to stay afterwards, you can come with me and I'll give you a tour of the first floor. That's where our factory is. That's where that beautiful printer is and all the sewing machines and all that stuff. But we have documented and reported to City Council over $12.5 million worth of free and discounted programs and services since we started in 2016. We've helped 1,650 apparel entrepreneurs. So thank you. We're proud about it, and it makes us feel really good to know that those people had this opportunity. Now, it's a big funnel. We say yes to everyone. You don't have to like wait to be admitted to this program or something like that. You can get in, and this funnel is like this, and everybody that comes in, if they fall out of the funnel sometimes, you know, if they don't have a good idea, if they don't have the patience, if they aren't willing to go use the roadmap, if they like maybe don't have any money to invest in buying their fabrics and their manufacturing and all of those things, then it's not going to work. But the roadmap will help them figure that out before it's too late. Like, they can easily walk away after they realize that, as opposed to spending thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money and then realizing, oh my gosh, I can't even make this product in the price point that I want to, or I don't have a good idea or whatever. Then if they decide that they want to stay in and they have all those things going for them and the stars align, then we've got some amazing brands that have come out the bottom of that funnel that are doing the thing that they love and feeding their family doing it and running businesses that are their dreams and, you know, making a living off of it. Like, that's what everybody wants to be doing. So that's the rewarding part about all of this, is watching those people be able to do that. But I think it's really rewarding even when somebody discovers this isn't for them and they walk away. That to me is even more rewarding. Like, I've stopped somebody from going too far and, you know, wasting a lot of money. The people that get scholarships are disadvantaged entrepreneurs. So minorities, veterans, people with disabilities, and people who have a significant financial need are granted scholarships into all of that education and all of those resources. Now, we also do all kinds of other free stuff, just so that you know, because you guys can all take advantage of these things. These are just a few of some of the things. If you're a free member, then you can actually do all kinds of stuff. First of all, if you have a business, and a lot of you guys do, add yourself to our business directory. It's free. Just log into your membership, and at the top, click Add Listing, and that's a way that you can start promoting yourself And it's good for your SEO. If you know anything about website search engine optimization, we will have a link from our legitimate website to yours. That's going to help you a lot. So put your business in there, and you get to put like your website, your social media handles, pictures, whatever you want. And then people constantly ask us, hey, do you know anybody that makes blah, blah, blah? Or we have like media always asking us, hey, I want to write a story. Do you have any good stories? We just send them to that directory. So hopefully it gets you more business and more exposure. We also have a classifieds page. If you start growing and you need to hire people, send us the job. We're going to post it for free, so you don't have to pay for like some job board somewhere. And if you're looking for a job, you can go there and you can find all the jobs that we know of listed there as well. We also have an events calendar. So if you're looking to attend more fashion events and you want to sit on a runway somewhere, this is the one place you can go to find them all. You don't have to now know, oh, I had to go to that calendar and that fashion week and blah, blah, blah. They're all on this one calendar on our website. We try to keep those updated with as much stuff that we know about. So if you're having a show, send it to us. We'll add it to it. But go there and find things to do, and then attend our shows. They're listed there as well. And our shows, we try to make those either free or really affordable to attend and to participate in. So we want to make it affordable for a brand to start a business, and there's not a lot of ROI on spending thousands of dollars to be on a runway, so I don't advise doing that until you can financially afford to do that. Instead, be in one of our fashion shows because it's either free or under $100 to be on a runway with us. In fact, we do Eco Fashion Week every year, and all of those shows to participate in are either free or I think $10 is what we charge that we fabricate designers to participate in that. We do an annual fashion show called the Label Horde Fashion Show. It's 60 local designers in that one show. It takes place at the Tempe Festival of the Arts, so you get a lot of exposure, and it's $40 to participate in that one. So there's just good opportunities. And then stuff like this, you can come and learn and network with each other. You're going to find it all on the events page. We have so much more. That's really the majority. Oh, we have a free sourcing library. When it's time to start sourcing your wholesale materials, it's really hard to know where to go. And you don't go to Joann's. You got to go find the mills that are wholesaling lower minimum fabrics. Well, we have a whole free library that you can come and access and just find your sources. And then I give a $5 consultation every Friday. It's kind of like office hours. So if you're ever stuck, if you ever have a question, if you just want my opinion, anything in the roadmap doesn't make sense, just join for $5. I'll help you and I'll answer anything. And that way you can save a lot of money. I used to spend $300 to pay a woman when I had my brand in LA to do the same thing. $300 an hour. So it's well worth it. That's one of our biggest give backs. And then we have a newsletter. So when you're a free member, look for our newsletter. That's the only way that I will be able to communicate to all you guys if I know of something that you should know about. I can't remember everybody, and I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I know of a grant. I need to call so-and-so. I'm just going to put it in the newsletter. In fact, that actually happened. We had a grant by the city of Tempe. It was a BIPOC grant where we were able to give $20,000 to 6 different BIPOC entrepreneurs for manufacturing. That felt so good. That was so amazing. But I was astonished by how many people didn't apply for it because I put it out in the newsletter and not everybody reads the newsletter. And so the ones that read it and applied, they got it, So those are the things it's so important to pay attention to. I'd say that newsletter is like the biggest one. So that is some of it. Here's a list of some of the stuff that you can do in the roadmap. So there's a branding or business section, helps you get all your licenses, helps you set up your business, helps you fund, figure out where funding is. There's a branding section. It helps you understand everything that you need before you create a website. You need a whole branding package, like these are your guidelines, your logos, your fonts, your colors, your taglines, all of that, and where to go to actually get people to help you if you need help creating a website, but how to do it yourself if you want to. Then there's design development. It gets you all the way through design development. So pattern making, sourcing, sample making, tech packs so that you're ready for manufacturing. Then there's the pre-sales section, how to get into stores. Then there's the manufacturing section, how to actually manufacture in small batches domestically. There's a secret sauce to that, and it's in there. And then marketing. So whether you're selling online or brick and mortar or however you do it, there's a whole bunch of information there. Events and fashion shows, how to produce your own or how to participate in them. And then how to grow your brand when you start to get to that point. There's also a new technology section that we've just added that we're adding to. Okay, that's enough about fabric. I always just feel it's really important to kind of get to know the place before we interview our guests. But before we interview our guests, the suspense is probably killing everybody. I am going to pull up a little something that I want to read to you guys, because this just came out maybe an hour ago. This was released. And my business partner, Sherry, who's sitting back there in that beautiful dress, she sent this to me. She's our innovator. She's the person that makes this place so innovative. She's always on the lookout for what is the next thing and why we need to incorporate it into this place. And so she pays attention to all this stuff. So this just came across, and she was like, oh my gosh, what timing. So this was just posted. The EU's new eco-design regulation sets comprehensive sustainability standards for products, introduces a digital product passport, and prohibits the destruction of certain unsold goods to promote a circular economy and environmental sustainability. The new rules are, first, set environmental sustainability requirements for almost all kinds of goods on the EU market. Second, establish a digital product passport. And third, prohibit the destruction of certain unsold consumer goods. So their policy is being passed in Europe that is forcing sustainability. That's amazing. We need this. Like I said, the industry is one of the most polluting industries on the planet. So it needs to be fixed, and they're starting to do that already. And it's going to come here, right? So our guest tonight is actually providing the solution so that you apparel entrepreneurs will be ahead of everybody else when the policy does get passed here. So I would like to introduce Christian Oswald of RainFall. Let's give him a round of applause. Yay! Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So here's your mic.
Do I need it?
Well,
do I need it?
Do we need the mics?
No.
Sometimes when we're sitting, it's a little less, but...
Just put your hand up if you can't hear me when I'm talking.
Yeah, maybe I don't need it. I can hear you. Can you?
Okay, good.
Okay, you guys can all hear us pretty good? Okay, great. That's one less thing to hold.
Just in case.
Okay, let's do that. Here, I'm gonna turn it off.
There you go.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the way this works is that we're gonna let Christian kind of tell us his journey, because I always think it's really important to learn somebody's journey, especially because most of the people in the room are, either trying to start a business, or they might be a student or something like that. So everybody's journey is so different. So that's part of the learning here. But he's also going to teach us something. So tonight we're going to learn a lot about digital product passports, and that'll be more towards the end. In the beginning here, we want to learn why and how did Christian get to the point where he created this really cool technology. So I'm going to start by just letting you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's get into the history of Christian, as a child all the way up till now.
And she's not joking. So I'm Christian. I'm the founder of RainFall, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'm okay talking about tech and Rainfall all day long. I'm a little bit uncomfortable talking about my childhood and everything else. But I think it was important to kind of talk about some of the lessons learned along my journey and how I got here and how I was able to connect the dots throughout that journey to where I am today. So a little bit about my background. I started out my professional career in the Australian Department of Defence. It was right after the Bosnian War, so we're still dealing with a bunch of refugees. This is like late 90s. So I got to see a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have seen at a very young age, but it really did teach me a lot of lessons and taught me about how lucky we do have it here. So that was late 90s all the way through to mid 2003. Spent a lot of time overseas in operations. And again, that was very eye-opening. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later on. Part of the United Nations as well. So when a third world country would kind of blow up, we would come in, provide peace enforcement, and then transitional administration. So if they didn't have a government, we'd put in a government, and that was like in the interim while we sorted out, the whole new government coming in and so on and so forth. From there, after I left all that, I immigrated to the US. where I joined a bunch of different tech companies, everything from Cisco systems. I don't know if you're familiar with any of those logos, but if you use the internet, it runs on basically Cisco and Intel chips. And there's somebody from Intel over here. Spent a bunch of time with big companies, little companies. So big tech companies, 70,000, 100,000 people, to little startups from 10 people, 20 people, so on and so forth. And then I'll talk about a fashion brand in a second, but if we go to the next slide.
And I want to give you the power. So
yeah,
it's
okay.
that little...
That's down.
The down button. Thank you.
I'll go back up. Here's a laser. You can't really see it. So there's a kangaroo and an emu up on the top left-hand side. That's the Australian coat of arms. And if you didn't know this, kangaroos and emus can't go backwards.
Oh.
So it's always about going forward. So one of our values is, like, no matter what, keep going forward. So don't back down. Even if you're down in the dumps, just keep going forward.
Love that.
My question is, where do they go from there? Because they're both facing each other. So if they can't go, but
they become one big monster.
Yeah.
Kangaroo.
So my childhood, I was destined for fashion. If you can look at this this picture over here, that's me. Quite a fashionista.
I'm in anybody's way.
Born and raised in Brisbane, Australia. So there's a state called Queensland. That's the green one up there. Brisbane's kind of on the east coast. But I was raised by immigrant parents. So both my mother and father from Spain and Austria. They immigrated to Australia in the 70s. They met there. And I did live a lot in Europe for a while. I was kind of like that weird European kid at school. I grew up in rural Australia, in farmland, farmed, and I was just like, I was a little bit different. The food I ate was different. The clothes I wore was a little bit different. So it was always like a little bit different. But that was okay. We didn't have a lot of money, and one of the sports I played was tennis. And my first kind of foray into fashion was tennis. At least back then, was like a sport for people who had money. And all the kids had like really nice clothes, all the top Nike clothes from Andre Agassi and all this stuff. And we rocked up in like these Kmart, polos and stuff. Well, my mom, she did a lot of sewing. So she didn't want us to be embarrassed. So she started making us like these really unique, and she was like infringing on IP technically. And it was a lesson I didn't learn until much later on. But she would create like these Nike things and Lacoste.
Supporting little alligators.
Yeah, exactly. But there was a lesson that I learned that I didn't realize I learned until much later on in life, is they were very unique and they kind of stood out. And everyone at all these tennis tournaments would be like, "Where'd you get that?" And we're like, just someplace. And they're like, "Can we get it?" And we're like, "No, don't think so." So it was like all these kids, all these rich kids wanted these kind of bespoke things. But I also got introduced to computers at a young age. That's well, does anyone know what that is? It's a Commodore 64.
Oh yeah. Oh, funny.
It has a tape deck, a tape, like, so you have storage on your phone. It had a tape. But I was self-taught, and somehow I was just fascinated with tech. And I was like this nerd, and I just tried to program stuff and record things on the tape. I'd ride to the library, research books, I'd ride back, and I would write code. And so I was kind of like this nerdy but sporty kid. But there was like this passion that I had there that I just couldn't let go. And I think you all know this as well. Like when you feel that passion throughout life, you just got to hold on to that thing and just ride it. And that's pretty much what I did. Is again, I learned a lot through just self-taught. Any questions before I go on? No? All right. So as a college dropout, I was about a few months away from graduating. I was either just turned 19 or I was about to turn 19, and I'm extremely impulsive. And I had this.
Wait. Why were you about to graduate at 19? That's pretty young.
Yeah, the Australian system is a little bit different too. So there's a lot of people that leave high school at grade 10, and then you do 11 and 12 is like your prereqs for college, almost like your English 101, your history. So when you go to college, you don't have to do that, like the boring stuff, and then you just do your major. And it was just like, it was like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday was kind of, so I had a few months to go, and I had a midlife crisis at
19.
At 19. And I was like, I had this light bulb moment where I was like, I cannot sit in a cubicle for the rest of my life. And I figured that out at like 19. I was like, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. I've got to do something else. Ironically, I end up guest speaking at all these universities, fast forward for the last, 10, 15 years. I guest speak at all these universities, which is, a little ironic.
Do you have to say in front of them, I didn't graduate, but...
Oh, loud and proud, but you should go to college. So
go to school.
Go to college. I remember my dad in German is like, das ist unglaublich, which is like, that's inconceivable, don't leave. And then, but that was supportive. So what I ended up joining the military, and I don't know if it was fate or what, but I had this interest in joining the military from a young age. And the reason why this is important, there's a few people that mention like their brand and what they stand for, foster children, so on and so forth. I think we all have a story to tell, and we have this sense of purpose that's much greater than oneself. And that was one of the things I found in the military, was that it's selfless, it's for a purpose much greater than yourself, and there's some purpose behind it, and there's bonding with your brothers and your sisters, so on and so forth. But we got broken. So there's a lot of like external scars, also internal scars, and that impacted us in a great way. But I'll talk about how that kind of helped us create a brand in the future. I crossed paths with Mark Wales, who's on the right-hand side. I got out in 2003. He got out in 2013 or 2014, and he saw many more tours than I did, but he's been a real success story around where he left the military. He's written some bestsellers. He was on Survivor. He won Survivor. He's now in the Mad Max movie. So if you go see the Mad Max movie, he's in there. You just saw it?
I did, yes.
Yeah, like we love that dystopian kind of world. But
I know.
but he he was in that. And when we reconnected many years later, what do you do when you leave the military or you get sick of the tech world? And that was one of the things. I just got sick of the tech world. I was clean shaven. I was prim and proper, wearing a suit, and it was just not me. And it was really good money, but we needed to do something else. So he's like, well, why don't we start a fashion brand? And he knew nothing about fashion, and I knew nothing about fashion. We said, what a great idea. And I wish we knew Angela like way back then. This is, he started it, and then he asked me to come on board to help. But we, and I might get shot here, but we make kangaroo leather jackets in New York City. But talking about sustainability, it is the most sustainable leather there is. So they're not farmed in any way. The Australian human population is about 24 million, maybe 25 now. The kangaroo population, I think, is anywhere between 40 and 60 million.
Wow.
And every year they actually go out and they cull 2 million kangaroos to keep the population down. You'll be walking down the street and there's just like a mob. They're called mobs or troops. There's like a herd. So you'll just see a mob of kangaroos cross, like just a whole mob. And they get hit by cars. There's a lot of roadkill.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's. So we use a lot of that leather, and I talked about.
It's the roadkill. It's the roadkill coat.
So I'm going to tie it back to this. So I'm tying it back to this.
You need to do this again. Let's get a roadkill coat going. You can make that.
So I put a picture of myself there, all bloody. A lot of the leather that we do use has natural scarring from the kangaroos. And a lot of people don't use that leather because it's scarred, and we're like, that's perfect for us. This brand was mostly developed for veterans. So we wanted something that spoke to veterans. There's a lot of people that have a difficult time transitioning from the military into the civilian world. Part of that is like their identity. So we wanted like a civilian uniform that they could wear that helped them be part of a different community, their new community. And the jacket was actually inspired by the uniforms that we used in Afghanistan. So they have these low profile collars. They have pockets on the arm because when you wear like a chest rig, there's no pockets you can use. So there's like all these little details that we ended up adding into the jackets. And I'll show you. Feel free to pass this around. So why we chose kangaroo is, well, we're Australian, and you can pass that around, kind of feel. But and you'll probably see the natural scarring and all sorts of stuff.
Where the SUV hit it.
Where the SUV. But we wanted something that wasn't fast fashion. So these again are made in New York, not slave labor. It's enduring, so you can hand this down through generations. It's not something again that you would wear and throw away. The kangaroo leather is actually half as thick as cowhide, so it's really thin, but 10 times as strong.
Oh, cool.
So it's really strong leather. It's used a lot in soccer shoes, or soccer boots, whatever you want to call them. But they're actually banned in California, so you can't ship kangaroo to California. I think that was the cow lobbyists, got a hold of that. So our story went kind of viral, and we have a lot of like Bear Grylls, there's a lot of celebrities that wear our jackets, and it went kind of viral, which was good. It was a good thing, it was a bad thing at the same time. These are like $2,000 jackets. The zippers alone cost us $100. The kangaroo leather is really expensive, even though it is roadkill. But we had no idea what we were doing. Some of the first shipments, I don't think we've ever had one return, but some of our first shipments, we exchanged over 50% of the jackets because we got the sizing wrong. It was just complete disaster. So please follow the fabric kind of like model.
This is the story of so many brands.
Yeah, sizing will kill you. But there's a lot of lessons that we took from other industries and other brands. So Warby Parker, the glass company, that will send you some glasses, you try them on, you're like, I like this one. So we ended up creating some mock-up jackets that we would send out to people when they made their orders. We'd send out these mock-up jackets. That was at the beginning, but we got to a point where if somebody told us their weight and height, we were like dead on. So it went viral again. We saw a whole bunch of counterfeits. That was what we kind of ran into.
You've made it when people are counterfeiting you.
Yeah, and these were like $100. The counterfeits were like $100, and we ordered some, and they were leather. And we're like, wow, how are they doing this? Like the zipper alone for our cost is $100. How are they doing this? So we looked at. I'll pause there. Any questions so far?
Is that a Riri zipper?
Riri, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the snaps are like $10 or $15 each. Can't remember. It's a lot, but yeah, Riri.
So it's probably sweatshop labor. That's how they did it.
Yeah, yeah. So we experienced counterfeits. So we looked at what's Coach doing, what's Louis Vuitton doing to kind of combat counterfeits, and we found, and this is like back in 2018, 2019, we found that they weren't really doing anything at all. And we were kind of confused about that. Like why, do they really care about counterfeits or not? Or if they were doing something, it wasn't for the consumer. Like the consumer couldn't check, like you had to bring it into a store and they had to check it. Or was a serial number that was put in there, but the serial numbers are easily faked. So at that point, we were like, we've got this tech background, let's figure it out. And that's what we kind of did. We figured it out. So we started embedding, pass this one around as well. You'll see most of our stuff is black. I don't know if you've seen the Lego movie with Batman, and he's like, I like things in black or really, really dark shades of gray. That's our brand, but we did like a limited edition version, which came out in brown. But you'll see behind the label, we have this NFC chip. It's not in the black one. That was way before.
There's a little pocket.
Yeah, there is. There's a secret pocket, but you can take it out, but it's not embedded into the labeling. So if you look at the brown one, it's embedded behind the labeling. Yeah, yep. And that was a few years ago. We've got even nicer chips now. But these are the chips. It's about the size of a quarter, and we embed that behind the label. There's ones that look like buttons. You can actually, you can get these in different color, but it's basically a button, right? But there's a chip inside. You can see that. We have these that are a little bit more flexible, and they can be ironed on into the label or anywhere in the garment, and we'll show you, I think, some of those a little bit later on, right? So we kind of started there, and at the beginning, no app was required. You could just take your phone, you could tap on the chip, and it would tell you if it was authentic or not. And we're like, this is great. We solved the world's problem for counterfeits. And we found pretty quickly that nobody really cared. Yeah, people say they care about counterfeits, but they don't. And it goes back to why wasn't Louis Vuitton or Coach or any of these other brands doing it? And for them, it was, the person buying the handbag at the hot dog stand for $300 is not their customer anyway. So they say they care, but they really didn't. And we found from the consumer perspective, once they checked that it was authentic, they didn't care because they knew it was authentic. So we wanted to figure out, well, how do we get more engagement out of this? Now that we have this chip in the jacket, how do we get more engagement? And how do we tell our brand story? So the things about, there's a lot of questions we would get about the scarring and I just bought this $2,000 jacket and there's a scar in it. And we're like, you have to tell a story over and over again. We ended up printing out.
And it was driving down the road.
So it was a way to, how do we embed stories? All your brands are about stories. So how do we help consumers understand the story about where this item came from? So we started embedding stories, and then rich content. I think somebody was talking about advertising and content, and so on and so forth. And we'll show you later on. We started adding rich content. We see a vision where we can start embedding advertising. So when you think about monetizing your brand, how do you generate revenues from digital revenues, not just selling the item once, but are there ways that you can also create a different revenue stream through digital revenues? And we'll show you a little bit of that later on as well. We named the internal project codename Rainfall because we were just trying to think of a silly name that we would call this tech internally in the jacket company. And we're like, oh, what's the most top secret, military thing there is? Is like top secret, is it special access programs, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, what about that place? Is that public? And in 2017, they made this place public. It's in the middle of Australia. It's called Pine Gap. And its code name was Rainfall. It's kind of like Australia's Area 51. So Area 51, I don't think they acknowledged existed until 2013. This place I didn't acknowledge. Actually, I don't know if they even still acknowledged it, to be honest. But it's a joint base between the Americans and the Australians. We call it Rainfall. There's a 4 in our domain name, so it's RAINF, the number 4, LL. Biggest branding mistake ever. Ever.
This is a good learning.
This is a great,
moment.
Really, really ask your customers first if, show them something or, get their feedback. It's still up to you, but in terms of how they interpreted that, we've had everything. When people see it, because rainfall.com was taken, and we wanted that domain. And we're like, oh, it's like a number plate. There's another meaning. I mean, maybe you can derive the meaning from that picture with the number 4. But it was almost like a license plate where, well, if that's taken, then let's put in a number 4 instead of an A, and it's almost like a license plate. So it's like rainfall.com with the number 4. But I can tell, like, telling people over the phone, and they're like, what is it? It's Rainfall, but with the number 4, and they're like, where's the 4? Is it? And we've had everything from RainF4ll, RainF4ll, Rain. It was
I do that when I type it out. I accidentally put 11 instead of LL a lot.
It is, yeah. Perfect example, right? So a huge branding mistake to add the 4 in there. So we're going through a whole rebrand. We've got some other domains that we're going to use, but it is Rainfall, and that was the story kind of behind why we called it that.
So I'm going to have to get used to no 4 going forward.
What's weird is I've been typing. I'm just used to typing it now so quickly, and even the autocorrect and all that. It's like learn my behavior to do that, and now I can't spell rainfall. It's like so we ended up spinning the tech company out of the fashion brand because we knew that this was something that either all fashion brands could potentially use, and not just fashion. So our vision is where everything is every physical item is Rainfall enabled. We started getting a lot of feedback from our customers. Or like, hey, we've got our medals from our service. I'd love to have a chip in there, and I could add like our full story, all our stories, all our buddies, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. So we allow the ability for consumers to add their own heirlooms or anything they want. If you want to add your coffee mug, you can do that. Family heirlooms, while they might not be worth anything, there's perceived value that you have to that item, right? Maybe it's grandmother's salad bowl, right? That doesn't mean anything to anyone else, but it means a lot to you and your family. You're going to pass those things down. Because there's so many things we have that I have no idea the story behind that came from my grandparents, and especially my family from Europe, right? There's like a lot of rich history there that I know nothing about. And it'd be great to understand kind of those stories. So with that, I can definitely, rather than just talking about it, I can jump into a demo and I can kind of show you what it actually looks like if that works. Yeah? All right, cool. Any questions before I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much are the jackets? Like how much do you sell?
We're going to raise, so they're about $2,000, but we're going to raise them. We're going to raise the price, actually. So good question. I'll go back a little bit. We used to sell them for $1,300, and once we embedded this technology, we're like, let's see how far we can kind of push this. So we just kept raising the price until sales kind of plateaued, and we got it close to like $2,000. And then we just started experimenting with other products. So we just started experimenting with shoes, even an Australian whiskey. The whiskey we were selling for $850 just because it had the tech on it, because people could add stories, and it was a gift. So people could add their own personal messaging.
This is me passed out on the floor after drinking this
whiskey. It was like, their dad's birthday, and it was a big whiskey guy, and they would add a personal message to that whiskey bottle, and it was used as a gift. So we found that we were able to increase our MSRP, or our sell-to price, much higher rate. We were able to obviously reduce the counterfeits, which I'm not sure if it was impacting our brand anyway, but we essentially eliminated those. I think there was a couple of jackets people had sent in that were fake, and we're like, this isn't ours. And they're like, well, yeah, it is. No, it's not. It doesn't have our chip in it. And a lot of the jackets that we had sold prior to implementing this technology, we created a little operation called Operation Recall, where we'd send all these folks chips that they could put in that little secret pocket, wherever it was. But we found, again, so we're actually going to increase the pricing even more. We're almost going to double the pricing to around $4,000. You better get it while it's cheap. Yeah. But we found, there's folks like there's Tom Ford that are selling jackets for $8,000. And they're like, it's made in sweatshops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I've seen the factories where they make this stuff, and the quality is nowhere near as good. So we're like, we're going to increase the price to $4,000. It could alienate a lot of customers, so we are going to bring in a cheaper line item to kind of fill that gap. And it's actually going to be about $1,700 to $1,000 range.
The
just
fact
to
that
fill
they
that
were
gap.
originally $1,300 is blowing my mind. I mean, that's like a really quality.
Yeah, we
Like, how did
probably,
you even do that? I don't get it.
Yeah, we
I know
probably-
what things cost
yeah.
to make.
yeah, and it was in New York, right? So it's not
Yeah.
like cheap labor.
Crazy.
And do you see that, I mean, are the people using the technology, are they accessing the technology in your jackets?
Yeah, good question. So we get stats. So every time somebody scans, and it doesn't need to be chips. We can support QR codes. We can support other technologies. The reason why we did chips is it's a cool party it's like a party trick, and it's like this wow factor. Actually, we'll start passing these around. I think I did Amelia's dress or something at the front.
These all have that in there?
Yeah, these all.
Oh, yeah.
So as I pass these around, if you have an iPhone, just unlock your phone and, not those ones. The reader is on the top of the front, the top itself, or the top back. So if you just, I don't know if you can see that, but you get a little push notification. There's no app required, and you'll see the item. So again, you can hover around the top.
If you have an Android, it's
have an
more in the middle.
Yeah, the Android's a little bit different, but generally they're in the middle. So if you have an Android, just hold it, rub it around a little bit. Androids, I think they pop from the bottom, right? Sometimes. So your notification might pop from the bottom. Just tap on it. But this was
Wait, explain if they don't have their NFC reader on.
Yeah, usually Android phones, most of the time, if it doesn't work on your Android, go into your settings, look for NFC, and turn it on if it's not on. But if you just want to start passing these, and you can keep these. There's some more. Start passing these around. Oh. But let me. So as I said, we spun the tech company out. We found that if we weren't going to do this full time, it wasn't going to work at all. Let me share my
Weird. Did everybody get one? And did it work? If it didn't work, if you didn't turn on your NFC, if it's not turned on, that would be the reason it didn't
good question.
work.
Yeah, remind me to talk about that in a second if I don't.
I don't know.
Okay. Good question.
She has a question about the kill capture.
Yes.
Is that the name of the line?
So the mission profiles of the Special Air Service Regiment in Afghanistan were the kill capture missions, which is like the most famous one is probably the Bin Laden raid, right? So those are kill capture missions. Go in, kill or capture the bad guy, the bomb makers, et cetera, et cetera. So we called it that. Even General Mattis was like, it's kind of like edgy, and we're like, yeah, but it's.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, is that just for the jacket?
No, that's the entire.
It's the line.
It's the line. It's the clothing line, not the tech line.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Rainfall's the tech.
And it's capture with a K because like Michael Kors or Calvin Klein, it's like a hard K. So we put capture with a K.
So the dress that you guys are looking at, I just want to plug Amelia. She was here. I don't know. Oh, there she is. Amelia, come over here really quickly. Everybody scanned your design. So Amelia created a collection for Eco Fashion Week that was all based on butterfly inspiration. She's actually wearing one of the pieces, but the dress that you see there was from her collection. She's also got a chips in this outfit too. And she showed that she launched it at Eco Fashion Week. So that's what you're looking at right now.
You can pass these around. These aren't configured, but this, you can see, like a naked chip without coating on it.
You can keep it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, okay, and also Sherry is wearing a dress that she designed in 2 days, mind you, the whole dress, and it was printed on our sustainable printer and then embedded the chip in there, and this was part of Eco Fashion Week too, so you can scan both of their outfits and see the history and how it was made and everything.
And then once you're wowed by all that, I can kind of walk through how we've built it and our thought process behind, oops, I gotta keep it straight. So I think everything that you scan should look something like this, yeah? Yeah. So at the top of every product is going to be the profile picture of that item. And then the item name, and that could be anything the designer wants to call it, so it'll be the item name. Then the brand name, in this case we did it under fabric, but I think we're going to spin that out and have Amelia's own brand. Then we have this concept of attributes, so we serialize every single number, every single item. So you might get the same Nike shoe, but they're all serialized, so it's all unique. It's unique to you. You own that unique serial number. So whether that's, we've done bottles of alcohol, we've done cigars, we've done fashion, we've done everything. Every single item, even though it could be mass produced, will have a unique serial number. And that unique serial number is owned by you. Then we have this concept of attributes, and the brand can add as many or as few attributes as they want. Here we have like the artist, or maybe it's cleaning instructions, or maybe what it's made out of.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
So I just embedded one of these into one of my upcycled t-shirt ball gowns that I make, and that I included the care, the size, the name, the style, because I offer like 4 different styles, so which style it was, the size, the color. So it's all the things that are like the basic things about this garment, like that define it as its own.
Yep, perfect. Then this next section here, this is almost like, think of that as like your call to action as the brand. What do you want consumers to click on? So everything from maybe your website, maybe your Instagram page, anything you want them to click on that will either drive more business, allow the brand to collaborate with you. Feedback, we've had people add feedback, so you can provide feedback directly. Maybe it's an SMS chat. We've added a digital version of people. So Mark Wales, actually the jacket, I don't know if the brown one's floating around. We've trained a clone version of Mark on his book and his podcasts and all this stuff, and you can actually have a conversation with Mark. And I tell him, I'm like, he's more Mark than Mark. He's like, I know.
Wow.
But you can have not just a text conversation, but a voice conversation with him. Sounds just like it's trained on him, and it's really. And we will actually. What's weird is that we will actually brainstorm with this clone version of Mark about new product ideas.
Oh my gosh.
And what we should call it. And we're like, oh, that's really. I'm like, Mark, I don't need you anymore. But
okay, wait. I need to do this. I need to like make a AI version of me that can just answer all the questions.
You know what?
All the
you actually,
entrepreneurs.
So actually, your entire roadmap.
Yeah.
You could train it on your entire roadmap, and people could have a conversation with it.
Cool and creepy at the same time.
Yeah. The rest is what we call like an event timeline. And this could be content that, I think because it's mirroring, it's not working. This could be content that the brand can push to the item, and this could be even after the item has been sold. This can be even after the item has been sold. You can continue to push content. It's almost like its own Instagram feed for that specific item. But you can do it in mass. So if you want to sell, if you've sold 10 million jackets and you want to push content to those 10 million jackets, you can. If you want to push content to one jacket, like the Willy Wonka golden ticket or something like that, you can do that. So you can pick and choose which content goes where. For Amelia's, we did a little bit about the design. So who is the designer? And I think that's important for smaller brands, is for people to connect with the brand, understanding who is the designer, where'd they come from. So we generally recommend for smaller brands to start out with who is the founder or the founding team.
Or
what
the
do they
brand
stand
video.
for? Or the brand video,
most likely
yeah.
have something like that.
Yeah. I'm sharing, that's why you can't see the video, but I think you can see the videos on yours. Amelia added everything from the mood board, making the garments, printing out the garments, so on and so forth. So that's really cool. But yes.
So for the ball gown that I made, I actually had a video about my brand, and then I filmed myself making the dress. And so that's the content. So the person who's buying it can actually see how their specific dress was actually made. And then, like you're saying, adding to it, so if you were a brand that was manufacturing something out of here, you could be coming in, filming as your product is being made. So like if it's being cut one day, you're filming that. If it's being sewn one day, you're filming that. And that's the transparency that I was reading in the beginning of our conversation that is actually becoming policy. Like you're gonna need to one day prove that this wasn't made in a sweatshop. So this is a really easy way to be able to do that.
Yeah, I wish with this screen mirroring the video would work, but this is an example. Once you own that garment or that thing, the owner can add their own stories. So here's a story of a shoe unboxing, and they had a video of the shoe being like person unboxing the shoe and wow, blah, blah, blah. They also had, these were designed by an artist, and the artist added a message to the shoe about what the artwork meant, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just showing you a bunch of different examples. Kate Brown, she was actually in town last week, but she couldn't meet with you guys. She does phenomenal stuff. So she upcycles luxury garments and turns them into luxury pillows. So these pillows are like $500 or $1,000. Yeah.
So how does the owner unlock the technology, or if it's stolen or something, can that person just put whatever they want?
Great question. No. So you have to own it. And there's a concept of owning and like a digital wallet. So in your Android or your iPhones, you have your Apple Wallet. We've built something similar to that, where only the owner can add content. So only the brand or the owner can add content that they own. Everyone else, like the ones that you have in your hands, you can't add content to that. You can see it, but you can't add content. What we found as well is that we were able to reduce advertising spend. In fact, we don't advertise. The jacket company doesn't advertise. We probably should, but our customers were advertising on our behalf, because you can share those stories on Facebook, on Instagram, blah, blah, blah.
Your customers become your marketing team.
It's
you
that
guys.
word of mouth, right? So, yeah, exactly. Brand ambassadors, yeah.
Obviously, mom, I'm a mom, just kidding. With the mom question, what happens with laundry? Like, does it affect with the
No, so
washing, drying?
nope. So those hard ones, you can put them in the wash dryer all day long. Yeah.
Is there a way you can put a tracker in it? So let's say
You lose it? Yeah, if you lose it and you want to find it.
yeah, if you want to, like, as the owner, or if you're making a whole bunch of them and they get stolen, the factory or something, is there a way to?
No, we've looked at our early jackets before we even went down this route. Our first prototype, Mark left on the airplane, and we lost it, and we're like, oh, good one. After all that, but we started adding like the tile trackers. And the problem, the short battery life, or short for the life of the jacket. It was like a 2, 3, 4 year life cycle of the jacket. Wasn't really great. It's getting better and better, but IoT, like Internet of Things technology, just isn't there yet for like long term. You still need a battery. These don't require battery. So until there's something that is long lasting, it becomes difficult to do things like
I don't even know if I would want that, because then I would feel like I'm trackable. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Right.
Literally factories are empty.
Yeah, and so part of this is not just about combating counterfeits, but combating, because you might buy a real Coach bag for $300, but it was stolen in a smash and grab or something like that. So this has a concept of ownership. So who owns it? Well, at that point, the store owns it. If you're buying it from somebody from a hot dog stand, it's going to show that it's stolen, or it's should belong to the store, not the hot dog stand. So you can tag each item, or maybe it was destroyed in a fire for insurance purposes, et cetera, et cetera. If it's destroyed and you buy something, well, that could be part of insurance fraud or something. So there's a lot of other, gray market is another big one as well. So it's not just counterfeits, but gray market. That's where a brand says these stores can sell this item at, let's say, $100. But then you get all these gray market websites that sell it for $50, undercutting everyone else against the brands like MSRP. So you can find who are the distributors that are selling these items to the gray market websites. So there's a lot of like tracking on the back end for supply chain stuff. Yeah.
So I can see you're using blockchain and distributed ledger technologies to keep track of all these things.
Yeah.
Was there no thought using AI or generative AI?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to find a good example. Is there a brown jacket floating around? Well, so there might be another one. This is Kate Brown. So she takes these vintage garments and turns them into pillows. Like I said, the Grammys and the Oscars, they gave all the nominees and the performers these pillows with our tech, which is kind of cool. So that was exciting. I'll try and find, I think maybe this bourbon one. This bourbon one. So this is a bourbon one that we did. And what was interesting with bourbon, and we submitted a patent for this part, the music pairing. So you've heard about pairing like wine with food. I was talking to somebody in Italy, and they're like, oh yeah, we're at this mansion eating food, drinking wine, and they were pairing the orchestra to the wine and the food. And we're like, oh, we can automate that. So we created a way that you could generate music based on the taste profile of the bourbon, and taking the situational awareness of what's around. So time of day, where are you at, weather, things like that, to create unique music that was paired for this bourbon. So that's one. So it's about senses. Like when you're drinking bourbon, it's about senses, your taste, your smell, all those kind of things. And you can heighten those senses by adding, music that's paired with that wine. But this one we did a bourbon concierge. So this is, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear. I can't hear it. I played it, but I trained it on my voice, so it sounds just like me. But this is where you can ask anything like, tell me about Mark 46. And again, this is a bourbon example, but think about this, how this would relate to your brand, and any kind of informational stuff that you may want to tell your customers about, et cetera, et cetera. And there's product placement as well. So if there's keywords that are hit, in this case, Maker's Mark 46, say click here to buy the product. You can ask it things like, how do you make a cocktail? I'll tell you how to make a cocktail. Again, it doesn't hallucinate. It'll only talk to you based on what you train it on. So the more data you can train it on, kind of the better, but it's grounded in your information. So again, your example of your journey for fabric for designers, you could train the model on all that content. And you could just have and you can paywall this. So your $5, you paywall at $5, you can ask it questions. But the point is, from that chip, think of the chip as a blank canvas. with all these capabilities. So any messaging, any call to action, anything that you want, you can add to the chip.
And then your customer adds it too. So imagine the value if you bought something and you were like, hey, I wore this here and I wore this there. Now this thing has value and you want to hold on to it longer. That's a big part of sustainability too. And then you pass it down to somebody and now it's got a story to tell to your kid or whoever your friend, whoever, you know, owned it. Like, how cool is that? Yeah. So that t-shirt ball gown I made and passed, you know, to the person who bought it, she bought it for somebody else who is now she's going to film him opening it and using it for a celebration that they have, and then put that content into the chip.
Yeah, here's a little behind the scenes. This is the shoe I was trying to tell you about before. So this is the unboxing of the shoe. You can see him unboxing the shoe. But that's like raw, it's not brand video, right? It's like just somebody taking video and adding it. So there's like that rawness to it. And this is all data that the brand will also see as well. So it's important for, as a brand, to understand how are your consumers using your products. And are they surprised and delighted? Are they not? So on and so forth. But I wanted to show you a little bit of the back end. Here's some dashboarding stuff so you can see. So every time somebody taps on it, it's just like a website. It's a website for that specific item. When you go to a website, they understand where you're coming from, what device you're using, et cetera, et cetera. So we can see everything from where are people tapping from, you know, all over the world, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see where people are tapping from. There's even more data behind that. So we can see what device they're coming from, how old the device is. We got data that iOS users spend 20% more than Android users. So how you market to Android users might be different than how you market to Apple users. Yeah.
So who has access, like the brand owner?
The brand, you would have access to this. Yeah. So you have access to this. You have access to who's clicking on it, the type of devices, et cetera. So what's called first-party data. So first-party data is really important when you advertise or you market to customers. Getting somebody's email address is really important, especially when you sell through retail. If you sell direct, you generally capture that data. But if you're selling through retail, you're 2 spots removed. You don't know who's buying your stuff. This way you can start capturing that first-party data, email. And again, it's all opt-in. So if that customer wants to share that with you and they're adding it to their wallet, then you would capture that data. If they don't, then you don't. But I think that's a good trade-off. The back end, we've spent, because we're Army guys, we're not too smart, so we made it really simple on the back end. So even we could use it. But there's a concept of the attributes that you saw. So is this the fabric one? Yeah, this is the fabric one. So the attributes that you saw on top of that Garmin, this is where you just create a new attribute, create the attributes, you create your product lines. This would be like your t-shirts, your jeans, your sneakers, et cetera, et cetera. So you have your different product lines. And then you have all your products. So you can filter through all your different products. You can see details about each. So again, this is from the design or brand perspective. Okay, you can see all these details. If you wanted to create, send like a shared event, again, that's creating content that you want to push to millions of items that are out there. You just got to create a shared event. It's just like an Instagram post. If you can post on Instagram, you can use this platform. You just put in some details, the picture, description, location, rich content. Click create, and you've just pushed that content to 10 million assets out there in the market, or one asset, or whatever. I mean, I could spend all day going in the back, but it is very simple for folks to use. I was going to show you some different examples. Yeah, this is the one that you.
Yep. That's
is that a
one.
Secret? Can I show that?
Well, don't share it yet.
No, don't share that.
He hasn't received it yet.
We've had police really interested in this for tracking the weapons that are issued to them. Right now it's all in paper and spreadsheets. So this is an example where you can see who it's been issued to, when it was issued, the maintenance, instruction manuals, how to field strip it, et cetera, et cetera. So there's just all different types of use cases. And this is the bourbon one, I kind of showed you before.
So imagine if you're a brand that also has some sort of specific focus, like for example, you make clothes for roller skaters or something. Well, why don't you add content on how to do certain tricks and things like that to that, so that they're learning something at the same time. You're adding that value that way. So you can justify a higher price point if now they're not just getting a shirt, they're getting all kinds of instructions and tips and things like that along with it.
And this,
Piggyback on that, building on your own situation without having to rely on one
Exactly.
of those platforms that might go away, where you build this audience and then they go away.
yeah, because if it's Instagram, Facebook, it's not your data.
Yeah.
This, you own all this data. You and the customers own this data. And there's so many use cases, like the Foster stuff, I think is amazing. You can add like a donation link. You could add resources for kids. You could add like a whole conversational thing that will support kids if they're ever alone or whatever, or if they need help. So there's just a lot. There's a lot that you could do. You just like, the use cases are kind of unlimited.
Can you make your barcoding and like any kind of inventory?
Yeah, good question. So the cigar customer we have, we integrate it with their GS1s. So it's a barcode and then a QR. They chose to do QR codes, not chips, because the cigars are like $10. So the chips are about 40, 50 cents or so, and that would just eat too much into their margin. Versus they already put a UPC code on there, so we just embedded a QR into the GS1 label. So we've integrated like Zebra printers, all those kind of things. So yes, yep.
What are some of the calls to action that have maybe helped brands generate the most sales?
Yeah, good question. Direct link to that specific item, not just the website. So you'd be shocked, like the jackets, for example. If we just send them to the website, you wouldn't get as high as, what's the word I'm thinking of? What's your percentage when you close? Conversion. So the conversion rate, way lower if you just send them to the website. If you send them directly to that item, because when you're at a party or whatever the case may be, it's a party trick. People are like, tap on this. And like, I really like that t-shirt, that jacket. Whatever.
I want one.
Tap on it. Yeah, I want one. Yeah, check on here. Some people have added the affiliate link. So again, turning your customers into salespeople, brand ambassadors. So they added their affiliate link where every time somebody clicks on that, they buy the item, they get a little bit of money for it.
Brilliant.
So it's simple, but there's a big difference between just dropping them on the website to dropping into that specific item. Or an accessory. You got the jacket, these jeans look really good on it.
Yeah.
Right? Or a partnership with, you sell jackets, I'll partner with Levi's and they can advertise as a post. And it's not like tacky advertising, it's something that's extremely relevant that the brand has approved, said I'm gonna add Levi's as an event. So you get these cross-designer collaborations happening, which is really interesting. Feedback is an interesting one as well. Brands, I don't think, get enough feedback. Maybe something on Yelp or Instagram, but it's not a lot of content. Getting raw feedback from your customers, it goes through the roof when you add this. The large language model, that's been an interesting one. So yeah, those are like the ones that are top of mind. Yeah.
For opting in and out, so if they opt out, are they just opting out of the data, and can they still like add things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can still add things. What we're looking at doing as well is, what I didn't show you was the wallet. Let me see if I can show you that. when somebody owns an item, they could own an item from multiple brands. So you could own an item from Nike and Adidas and Coach and so on and so forth. Let's say it's Nike. They will see the data for their own product. They won't see the data that's in somebody's wallet that isn't their brand. But where we want to go is Nike can ask the customer, hey, what else do you have in your wallet? And we'll pay you to show us what you have in your wallet. Well, we'll show you what categories we have. We'll pay you $5 for each category that you own. Okay. We'll pay you $10 more if you show us what items you actually own. So giving power back to the consumer, where the consumer owns the data versus Facebook owning the data. So that's where we want to go, and that's kind of what we're working on as well. We're adding more into the supply chain side. So the bourbon companies want us to do the barrels and everything that goes into the barrel, because those barrels are there for 4 to 10 years. So everything from temperature, where they are in the rick house, because bottom floor versus top floor makes a big difference. It moving from the warehouse or this rick house over here to that rick house. So getting all that data on the back end and adding that to the events. So when these connoisseurs taste that bourbon, they're like, oh, this came from this batch versus that batch, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't want to go that route, but customers are pushing us more and more into the supply chain side. Yeah.
So I'm a manufacturer for patient apparel.
Okay.
And I've been commissioned by a surgical oncologist to develop a new compression bra. And so I'm thinking that she could do videos if you're week 1 post-op.
Yeah.
This is where you can be and adjust your bra. My question to you, do you have the capabilities right now to track how many washings? Because our products are higher than most healthcare systems are willing, and I have been trying to prove just empirically that they have a longer life cycle.
Yeah.
And so the life of the product is actually cheaper than what they're currently.
Yeah.
So those will be self-launder garments, but I have other garments that are in the hospital system.
Okay.
So just that.
Not with the chip. It would have to be manually tracked, where you would just have a counter and you could add it. That once you start adding friction, people aren't going to do it. There are labels that you can. How long is the life cycle of these? Like, it's multiple washes, right? It's not just 2 or 3.
Well, right now I'm making a product that has a life of 5 years.
Yeah. There are some labels that can detect when it's been wet and dried, but it's not going to tell you as it's been, washed 54 times. Yeah. Yeah.
This is why the medical gowns that we made, weren't something that they continued ordering, because to figure out and to have those washed and to track that and everything is probably more cumbersome than just ordering a disposable one.
Well, even the linen ones have an 18-month, then it goes to landfill.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to.
There is RFID that you could add. So there's NFC, which you just saw. There's RFID where your phone can't read it, and you can shoot it from 10 meters away. But you have to implement infrastructure. So in the laundry room, you'd have to have, almost like when you go to a Best Buy and you walk, out the RFID readers, you'd have to implement something like that to be able to track it.
But with the capabilities, don't you think there's an educational?
The educational, yeah, that's easy. Yeah, absolutely.
And the patient can.
100%. Yeah. So it would be the educational videos I could see adding, and then questions. If they have questions, you can contact somebody directly. You could always add texting or conversational stuff on your website, but nobody's going to do that. What you want to do, what this does is it removes friction, and it's in the moment. If you're wearing a bra, well, that's a good time to ask a question about it versus when you're not wearing it. And that's what we want to do with sports jerseys. Is you're not going to ask clone Devin Booker a question if you're not in the game.
Her focus is being patient-centric.
Yeah.
And so she really wants to.
Yeah. So this would be easy to do, something like that. Yeah.
So basically, you have 2 products. You have the
button.
First of all, how small can these things be? And with the QR code, what's different about your, your interface than how you use it otherwise?
So QR codes and NFC tags are just off-the-shelf commodity stuff. What we've done is built the software to program them in a specific way. A QR code you can print out for free. Right? Try creating 10 million unique items with individual serial numbers, individual stories that you get. So there's a whole, it's similar to a real passport. So your real passport, can you give that passport to me and can I go through an airport? No. Right? So your passports actually have an NFC chip in them. And it has data about who you are. It has your picture, your name, all that kind of stuff. So it's the same tech that goes in your passport. It's the same tech that we're using here, which is, I think, why the EU is calling it a digital product passport, because it's a passport for that specific item. So we've created the software and the ability to program QR codes and NFC chips at scale. So yeah.
I know you mentioned the large language model, which is, so with that being said, will our clients have the ability to, like, another languages, you know?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, support. And you can go look at this now. So we've partnered with a company called Delphi. We've got the enterprise license, but you can go out there for, I think, it might be $25 a month, which is really cheap. You can create your own large language model, train it on your own content. It still needs a bit of content, but you can train it on your voice. You can train it on, again, you can train it on, foster all the knowledge bases that you have. You can train it on that, and it can speak a bunch of different languages as well. Yeah, and it'll speak those languages in your voice as well. So I was doing a bunch of demos. I was doing a bunch of demos for like olive oil and stuff in Italy, and I did it in Italian, and I was like, I really want to learn how to speak Italian. Pretty cool. But so yes, you can do, and you can train it on one language, but it can speak a bunch of different languages.
You can't answer, or you have mentioned this, but is there any big fashion brands that are using this technology?
No, I think a lot of them that are trying to go down this route are where we were in 2018, which was, this is authentic or not.
So yeah, you smaller brands, get on it, because you're gonna have a leg up.
And big brands are really
They're slow to change. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I worked at big tech companies, and tech companies are fast. When you're talking about fashion, they're so slow.
Yeah.
I mean, at the big tech companies, to get a decision made that needed 5 different decision makers, you look at somebody's calendar and it's like, I can't talk to you for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And then you get a meeting, nothing happens, and it gets pushed another. And that's like software. That's not even physical things. Right? Well, except for maybe Intel. But like fashion,
That's what I was saying, that everything is analog still. I mean, it's all done the old school way with the big brands, and they're having a hard time adopting all the technology that's come out that we enable for you small brands, so that you can have a leg up over those big brands. And that's the big brands they're gonna die. They're gonna fall by the wayside because technology is happening so fast.
With what Fabric is doing here, and by adding this, you can create bespoke items at a reasonable scale, at a reasonable cost, and charge a boatload of money. And the big brands just can't. They just can't do that. So there's a big gap in the market, and that's what you guys can attack.
Question on whether or not we can
Okay.
have you tried doing any of the codes with thread? Because having the chip outside of, and we're creating a pocket.
So good question. With the jackets, and this is a little bit more labor intensive, but when it comes to authentication and security, there's layers to it, or levels. Right? And exactly, time and cost. So what we do when we manufacture these items, we take manufacturing day photos. So we take photos of the whole thing, different angles. Leather, just like our skin, has a unique fingerprint. So even if somebody rips that chip out, it's encrypted by just like your passport. If somebody rips the chip out of your passport, it still has your data on it. So for these jackets, it still has the grain, individual grain. So if you're trying to put this in a fake, we're like, okay, let's look at this section of the jacket. The grain is totally different. We've tried to work with AI, with image recognition, to do it automatically. It's just not there yet. It has to be like a specific, I think Intel does this with your chips, right? Like all the chips that come through, you got image recognition to make sure it's okay. It needs to be at a specific distance, specific angle, specific lighting, where we don't want it. We want it to be like you can look at it from any angle. So it's not automated, but it is manual. But it minimizes the counterfeiters trying to. The counterfeiters are going to go the path of least resistance, but it's a cat and mouse game. It's a game of whack-a-mole. So that's how we, and even paper labels on bourbon, even they have a unique fingerprint. So taking photos of the label has, the texture of the paper is unique from bottle to bottle. So as they, again, if somebody rips that chip out or whatever, you can see if it's original or not based on the paper.
So you're saying that unique fingerprint gives the potential for this to be a thing in the future, but it's not capable yet.
You can still do it. You can still eyeball it. I'm trying to think if I got a picture of the jacket. You can eyeball it, and you can see whether the grain is the same or not. It's just not automated.
Right.
So it takes a little bit of more effort, but it is future-proofed where in 3 years' time, when image recognition is good enough for that, then, yeah.
I asked before, but has anyone tried to benefit the chips?
Oh, so that's partly related to that question, and they're also encrypted. Well, again, this goes back to the layers. You can get them unencrypted, which most of them are, or you can get them encrypted. Your ones in your passport are encrypted, so somebody can't copy it. Somebody can copy a QR code. You can get labels that makes it hard to print or to photocopy. But again, it depends on how much effort you want to put into it, time and cost, and there's those layers. Right? So if you're really concerned, you would do the encrypted chip, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the alcohol brands are also adding, it's a chip with a tail that's put on the cap. So when it's opened, it cuts the tag and tells you if it's open or not. There's also other chips that'll tell you how full it is, which is kind of cool. I mean, not exactly, it'd be like red, yellow, green. So it's difficult to, again, the encrypted chips you can't copy. Those ones that I did send out, you could potentially, but then you would mirror that with the image recognition or the photos from the original manufacturing and see if it's the same garment or not.
Evelyn. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Evelyn. I will go to you after that.
The size, like, is there a
Oh.
way to make that smaller? I make ladies' shoes.
This is
Yeah.
a button. Look how small that one is.
Yeah, that one's small. You'll see, I'll give you this. The shoes we've used in the past are these.
And could you have it ironed on in the inside on this
Yeah, you can do it on there.
sole?
There are smaller ones as well.
Flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was worried about. Was
Yeah,
the,
no.
the
That's
thickness.
flexible.
That's
And that's
inside
washable
this
and-
because this is a knit, so it's stretchy. You don't want a big hard thing in here.
That's
So
right.
it's ironed on right here. So if you want to see it ironed on.
There's really small ones. The problem becomes with your phone. You have to get like really close to it. So the bigger it is, the bigger the antenna is.
Can you put it under leather? Like
Yep.
you have it in a,
Yep.
like the typical leather is a half a millimeter
Yeah.
stuff liner?
Yeah.
So it'll be.
Yeah, we've done shoes. We've done it. Some people have put them on the inside on the sole, and you could scan it from the outside. Yeah. Yeah.
And is there any, I put magnets in my shoes if you touch our supports in the shoes. So.
You don't want it touching the magnet, and you don't want it touching metal. So as long as it's not touching, it'll be okay.
If there's something in between?
It could be, yeah, if it's metal or a magnet, it could be, yeah. Well, we can test it out. But, yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Evelyn has an amazing shoe brand
Cool.
that is also very innovative, and we did a lecture with Evelyn as well too, so that's why she's asking hers. I mean, these are like the most comfortable heels ever. She has this technology that makes it. You have them?
I know, I need that.
Oh, well, that's Evelyn. Evelyn 4ll Luxury. Look up Evelyn 4ll Luxury. She went through so much to make these as comfortable as tennis shoes, but they're heels. Oh. Yeah, there's all kinds of science behind it. It's amazing.
I just bought a pair last night.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Last night?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have such a small foot, and the smallest one actually fit.
Oh, I love it. Yay. It's amazing. All right, you had another.
This is more of a personal, curious question. Is your passion for this, does it lie really in the technology? Like, where's your passion for fashion, or like, is it both?
It's both, yeah. It's definitely both. It's, you know, when I was in big tech and I started the side hustle of the fashion stuff, I wanted to give back to the veterans, and there was that sense of purpose. And it was just, it was a lot less money, right, than big tech, but it was fulfilling. And then the ability to combine tech with the fashion piece. And then last week I was in Kentucky all week, just, you know, visiting bourbon companies. I'm like, I can't believe this is my life. Like, I'm just driving around visiting cool bourbon companies, right? I was just like, oh, this is so cool. So it's that factor of, again, being able to solve for a problem that my mother started when she was making the fake tennis shirts. But it was like the counterfeits that hit us. It was all that stuff that kind of came to a head, and yeah, I think that's what drove me down this path. Yeah.
I want to say one more thing. I know we've been. I think your thing is on. I don't know if you have any more to share.
No,
but,
that's basically it.
I want to mention that all of this, because I'm going to forget, so this is kind of out of context, but all of this like content that you could be creating and putting in here, the video content, I mean, we have in-house video production company right here doing it, so I want to plug these guys too. So it's King's Vision. So if you need somebody to create that content for you, it's right here at Fabric 2. I mentioned all the different things we do here, and that's another one, so I just want to make sure you know.
And that's actually a really important point. What we found with a lot of brands, they're like, this is so cool. How do I tell my story?
Yeah.
And they struggle with their content. I think they overthink it. It's like, just get stuff out there. But then producing good content is really important too. So if you can either do it yourself or partner with these guys, like good content is really key too.
So I have a question regarding that. Yeah. How actually would work for me? What I'm purchasing, membership, I'm assuming you are owning the software, but I'm getting some program where I can do this or...
Yeah, good question. So how do we charge, basically, right? So we don't do a subscription. I think everyone's been subscription to death, right? So we just charge on a per item basis, and it just depends on volume. But you get access to all the software. It's cloud-based, so you can be anywhere.
It's easy.
Yeah,
easy to add your information.
Yeah.
and you are getting those chips. So how that works?
Yeah, you can either get them from us, but honestly, you could buy a lot of these chips.
Fabric, we have a whole bunch of them here. And come through us to go to him, because you're going to get it cheaper than if you went directly to him too. So yes, I've got a whole bunch of them sitting there waiting for our apparel entrepreneurs to implement this into their collections.
Buying just one chip, you are getting access to a program?
Yep.
Or is it some...
Yeah.
Nope, that's it. So if you had a chip and it goes in there, then you basically start adding the information. It's a really easy process. It's really cool. And you don't have to sign up for some sort of, membership with this or anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's we want this to be part of somebody's collection, so it's not like an individual user can come and do this. So you would put it into your collection, you know? Like if you had, I don't know, 30 pieces that you were making or whatever, then you're buying those for that collection. But if you're just a stranger off the street that's sewing something for your daughter, then that's probably not going to work, because that's a lot of information for him to have to manage, you know?
Hi, just going on the collection, so I'll be prepared with a fashion week this year, and I was very fascinated by that, so like, my piece would be 10 for this collection, that's what I'm doing. It'd be great integration, because I just love fashion, and I pride myself on making one-of-one pieces. Going back on your mother.
Yeah.
I was a poor kid that always wore my own clothes, so
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah.
But being unique when you walk in the room is such a good story for my brand.
Yeah.
And integrating that, I think is like.
Yeah. And if you have a fashion show, whatever the case, maybe you can take that content and add it to the story of that garment too.
You gotta use it for sure. And in your store for all the pieces that are in the store, you know?
Yeah.
Using this.
This is new for us. So we launched it at Eco Fashion Week, you know, so just a couple weeks ago. And we all incorporated it like into the products that were on the runway, and I was wearing that skirt, and that was our first time actually using it. So then I took it and put it into one of my t-shirt ball gowns so that I could experience it myself. And it was like crazy how easy it was. Like we actually inputted all the information, I think the day of, just right there backstage, you know, right before it went on, because, you know, everything's last minute when you're doing a fashion show. We had to make the pieces, and they were all still being made like last minute, and then we still had to add the information to the chip, so we're back there actually doing it really quick, and there it is on the runway, and then the audience got to scan it and everything right then and there, so it was really cool. So now we are just now saying, okay, we have this technology, and this is sort of the official announcement of it to you guys. So now it's available, and people can start coming through here and using it. So we're still working out little things. I mean, we'll learn as we go, like, you know,
I'm sure the onboarding
works,
process and whatnot might be a little bit, you know, rusty at the beginning, but we'll get it.
So you guys will be our guinea pigs.
So Angela, could we put it in a prototype that we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I told you yesterday, or whenever you were here, remember I said, we got to put this in this bra.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, didn't you say the doctor was like already a speaker? Like she already.
She's on the commercials for the hospital.
Yeah.
So she's already one of
Yeah.
those.
It's perfect.
That's perfect for her, yeah.
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 Yes.
Christian, you ever have to fight any of those kangaroos? I know sometimes
Yeah, funny. So, yeah. So there was a game, I told you that they would just be running around, and that's going to get me in trouble. In Melbourne, which is down south, there was an army school that we went to, and there was a bar on campus, and we'd be at the bar, and then you'd go back to the barracks, and all drunk, and there'd be a bunch of kangaroos, and I don't know if you've seen kangaroos fight, but they stand on their tail,
Yes.
and they kick you, and you can, like, big claws, and they will like gut you open. And
Oh
you'll die.
my gosh.
So the trick is to surround a kangaroo with a bunch of people and jump on its tail so it can't get on the tail. And then they box. They box. And they're still sharp. You'll see people coming to work with like scratches all over them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they actually, that's not made up. They actually.
No. And there's a bunch of YouTube videos. When folks go hunting, they'll take their hunting dogs with them. And they will go into a lake for the dog to follow them into the lake, and when the dog comes in, they will drown the dog.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
pretty smart.
Wow.
Pretty smart.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody have any? We'll take maybe one last question. If anybody, yes.
Easy is it to update content? Like, say you put 100 of these in your products, and then 6 months later, you're like, I want to update the product link.
So easy. So easy.
Yeah, it's just.
Back online and update that.
Yeah,
It's
you
so
can. So you just go to. So let's say it's this product here. You know, Amelia's look one. You go to create a shared event. Create a shared event. Just put in the.
And there it is. It goes to
There
all the
it is.
products.
So the next time someone scans it,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do have one last question.
my background. And not to go end with something negative, but let's just say all of us are using the product and there's some type of hump in the road. Is there like a help desk 24-hour or someone who's available?
Who's
Yeah.
AI Christian,
Yeah.
speaking
Well, there's
Italian
both
to
AI
you.
Yeah, there's a support team, so we have folks in Australia and Italy and here.
Okay.
So yeah,
Oh, I want Italian Christian.
generally once you're onboarded, it's fairly straightforward. We're always doing updates, so things might change around. But we try and update the help decks as much as we can. So yeah.
All right. Well, you guys,
Thank you so
let's give
much.
them a huge round of applause. Thank you for creating
Thank
this.
you.
Like, this is so
Thank you.
amazing and awesome and going to be so beneficial to so many different people and the planet, I think.
And likewise for Fabric. Again, I wish we knew about Fabric 7 years ago.